Moving ahead with this grand celebration of FMS Founders Day celebration, now is the time that we all have been really waiting for, and that is the memorial lecture. This year's lecture is being delivered by our respected chief guest, Ms. Nirupama Rao. Must have been seeing her on national TV. Many of you must have read about her in media. Some of you possibly are following her on Twitter, but most of us have never met her in person. Friends, it's indeed an honor and privilege to meet and greet her in person. Ms. Rao, retired as Foreign Secretary to the Government of India, the senior-most position in the Foreign Service, being the second woman to occupy this post. She was the first woman spokesperson of the Indian Foreign Office. Ms. Rao served as India's first woman ambassador to Sri Lanka and to the People's Republic of China. She was ambassador of India to the United States. As a serving diplomat for 38 years, Ms. Rao was a member of the delegation led by the late Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, during the historic visit to Beijing in December 1988. On her retirement from active diplomatic service, she entered the world of academics with an appointment as Meera Vikram Gandhi Fellow at the India Initiative at Brown University, USA. Ms. Rao has continued to pursue her academic interests and taught an undergraduate seminar at Brown University, USA titled India in the World. In retirement, Ambassador Rao has also pursued her passion for music with her album Peace is My Dream across all leading music platforms. Of course, you can go and hear it. She recently authored a book, The Fractured Himalaya, India, China, Tibet, 1949-62. Unnoting this intensely complex saga of the early years of India-China relationship. As a diplomat practitioner, Ms. Rao's telling is based not only on archival material from India, China, Britain, or US, but also on a deep personal knowledge of China. She was a staunch believer in the power of social media as an advocacy platform for policies, and etc. And also, she has over 1 million followers on Twitter. Please put your hands together to welcome our chief guest, Ms. Nirupama Rao, onto the dais, please. अतिथि स्वागत का सत्कार निभाने के लिए मैं साथ में इनवाइट करना चाहूंगी एक बार फिर President of the FMS Forum, Mr. Rajkumar Sharma. So if you can please join us on the dais. आप लोग की तालियां continue रहनी चाहिए. Now to deliver the Professor Das Gupta Memorial Lecture. Over to you.
Good evening, and let me wish each and every one of you a very happy Mahashivratri. Professor Vivek Suneja, President Rajkumar Sharma, the faculty of the FMS and students, members of the executive program, dear friends and former colleagues. It's an honor to be present here today and to deliver the Professor Das Gupta Memorial Lecture. In doing so, I honor the memory of a great institution builder. Persons like him, individuals like him, have been true builders of the nation, and we remember him particularly for the founding of the Faculty of Management Studies. I noticed that it's referred to as the Red Building of Dreams. And since the theme of my talk today is the senior century, I always perhaps like to think, tread softly because you tread on our dreams when it comes to talking about India. The question before us is this India's century? We all know that India is unique, it is distinctive. In many ways, it is the classic Madhya Desha in Sanskrit. In English, it kind of translates rather, I would say, not adequately to Madhya Desha, but you must remember that this definition of India existed before China's definition of itself as the middle country. Essentially, India is a country on the crossroads. It is as much a Eurasian country as it is an Indo-Pacific country. It is the place of every arrival. It's not just a big country, of course it is, but more than that, I would use the adjective vast. It is a vast country. Vast in terms of democracy, in terms of demography, in terms of diversity. It is a civilizational state, enduring, resilient, and value-based. It is magnetic, drawing to its shores the curious, the exploring, the questioning. Above all, the potential, the promise, and the inherent, and perhaps not fully tapped or harnessed power are the qualities that come to mind when describing India. What is clear today is that India, to use a phrase that Mao Zedong used for post-revolutionary China, has stood up. It is being counted. Its voice is being heard, and that voice is the voice of a multipolar world, a voice in the defense of multilateralism. It embraces multitudes, to use the words of Walt Whitman. It has the drive and the determination to give voice to the voiceless. Today, as India is the host country for the G20, its advocacy of one world, one earth, one family expresses the deployment of that voice, that civilizational conviction, and its relevance for a divided, fissiparous world across geographies. The challenge, therefore, is how to generate more power from this inherent ability that we possess, particularly to inspire an aspirational global South. India is uniquely poised to be that voice of the aspirational global South, seeking its legitimate place on the global high table. And this is exactly what we did when we hosted the recent virtual summit of the Global South. Now, the challenges to us lie across various dimensions. The first is, of course, always the first, the economic dimension. Nobody doubts our potential in this field, and that new India, as our Prime Minister terms it, is dreaming big and has the capacity to realize those dreams. The key word is the enormous positivity in the country. The PM speaks of making the country future ready. There is determination to move forward to meet our goals to be a developed country by 2047, the centenary of our independence, to reach a $20,000 per capita GDP, to be a front-ranking global economy. We are getting there, of course. None of our people should be left behind. For Gandhiji's vision of wiping the tear from every eye should guide us. We have to take all with us, for this is a country that draws its USP from its management of diversity, of the ability to embrace within its democracy different strokes, different voices. There is food and water security to be augmented. There is energy security to be assured. The deployment of more resources for health and education, gender equity, and of course, the major I word, which is infrastructure, digital and physical infrastructure, on which we are seeing more major changes. No country on earth is engaged in the major exercise of transformation for development in a futuristic manner that we wish to achieve today. To this, we should add more and more good governance across our federated state structure, so that state capacity to deliver on targets and goals is radically refreshed, reimagined, and overall improved, so that there is no scope for deviant trends that result in dilution and damage of the capacity to deliver to the people what is their fundamental and inalienable right to development. Reform, as Deng Xiaoping once said about China, is the second revolution. All across India, I see a revolution taking place of one vast country, aspirational and ambitious, confident and assertive, reforming itself for the future, guided by the goal of gaining for India her rightful place as a beacon for the world, not because she has hegemonistic intentions, but because she has so much to give to the world as a civilizational fountainhead, as a stable and thriving democracy, with the wherewithal to redefine a world order that for too long has been defined by precepts laid down by a long era of Western dominance that we were subject to from the advent of the age of colonialism, trading companies, empires, and then, later, the post-1945 global dispensation. I use the concept of dominance to mean that many of us who reside in the global south have been the victims of such dominance in an age of impunity. And we continue to see it today in the weaponization of the dollar, the effect of economic sanctions, the thrust towards regime change with calamitous consequences, as we saw in Iraq and Libya, and the emergence of the doctrine of might is right, as Russia has sought to deploy in Ukraine, taking a cue from the general lawlessness and flouting of sovereignty principles we saw when regime change was pursued in Iraq and Libya. No one country has the right to play God and rain destruction on another. Wokeness pursued by a group of powerful countries cannot be a guiding principle of international relations. Everything has context, and vengeance cannot be the answer. People are at the heart of the world, and they want development, access to resources, connectivity, good governance, greater state capacity to deliver. They want better lives which come from more resources in their hands, skill development, and making lives better for their children. And for a country like India, that realization is founded in the spiritual bedrock of our civilizational values that stress the unity of humankind, the spiritual basis of our cultural underpinnings, the spirit of our Setu Himachalam from Kanyakumari to Srinagar. There is a lot of talk today of whither our foreign policy. Along the way, we have shed the robes of non-alignment. We are unabashed about saying that India's GPS is the calculus of our interests multiplied by our value system, with our goal being to ensure that our boundless energy as a nation is harnessed for all-round development, social and economic, rural and urban, on earth and in space, with equilibrium with stability and with responsibility. Democracy is our strength. It is not a hand-me-down from the Western world. It is a product of the Indian agora, that open space defined by millennia of constructive debate, an emphasis on harmony about difference, creating balance and equilibrium, empathy, compassion, and patience. Remember the words tatta, dayadvam, damyata, generosity, compassion, and self-control. Respecting the right of coexistence with your neighbor, each creating space for the other, understanding the virtues of adaptation, compromise for the overall good, our stress on learning, and the acquisition of greater and greater knowledge to improve lives. These are wonderful values to equip even the world outside our borders and to inspire a global commons. As was said recently, we live in torn times, and we must have the navigational skills to deal with the situation. There is this discontent about globalization. There is the economic and social fallout of the COVID pandemic. There is rising nationalism across the world, and the unleashing of a technological revolution that threatens to leave the many economically or socially disadvantaged behind. This is an age that needs redefinition, by which I mean is not a rejection of globalization and the connections that bind us as humans together, but a more cogent path-finding capacity to make sense of the chaos surrounding us, to rekindle our resilience, our understanding of nuance, the need for flexibility, for tensile strength, and the rejection of narrow insularities. Countries such as ours need stability to grow and prosper. We need the assurance of the steady flow of capital and technology and the capacity to access these resources. We need the preparedness to augment and to ensure our national security. We need more and more modernization built on the bedrock of our civilizational strength, each reinforcing the other. For a vast country like India, built on pluralism and diversity, a nation of nations, we must develop more and more capacity to look beyond the horizon. We can and must be able to contradict shibboleths and received knowledge transmitted to us from beyond our borders with open minds, always ensuring that the interests of the unknown Indian, women and men who toil in our farm fields, who build the skyscrapers and urban settlements across India, our roads and bridges and tunnels, railroads and metro systems are kept in mind. It is not the age for elitism. It is the age of the unknown Indian. As I said before, this is a world of multi-dimensions, demanding multi-engagement that straddles all these spaces, reaching into cyber and outer space. How do we prepare India for the future that is outside and is already ringing our doorbell? First of all, let us equip ourselves with more openness, the ability to keenly monitor the outside world, keeping our windows open, eschewing narrow economic nationalisms, giving to and taking from the world as our economy multiplies in strength and our trade in physical and digital goods soars. Then, let us emphasize the importance of multilateralism in all global forums as a voice for the voiceless, and which in its true and unadulterated form can provide the strength to combat the dominance of the few, the arrogance of power, with strong institutions, with significant representation from the global south, providing the foundational strength of a new international order that reflects our aspirations, our rights, and the preservation of our fundamental civilizational values of inclusion, and non-exploitation of either human beings or the environment that sustains our planet. I believe that our vaccine diplomacy in the times of COVID and our reaching out to neighbors like Sri Lanka at the time of critical stress for that country are powerful examples of the voice of the new India. In a similar light, our stand during the current war in Ukraine in regard to the opposing of the weaponization of trade and also against economic sanctions in order to secure the import of oil from Russia is an expression of our sovereign right to choose options and solutions that safeguard our energy needs and the well-being of our people in the time of great global economic stress. This is also the India that has the economic capacity to place orders for 220 passenger aircraft in one go from Boeing and Airbus. This, then, is the advent of our century. Third, let us settle for nothing less than the best solutions for our needs as we develop and grow. Let us build and nurture the best educational institutions, whether schools or teacher training establishments, we really need them, the best and most well-equipped STEM colleges and universities, the best skill development programs networked across the country so that our demography becomes a solid dividend, an unflinching belief and respect for constitutional and democratic values among our youth, and the cultivation of the humanistic spirit among Indians of all denominations. Fourthly, the pursuit of sustainable solutions, especially in regard to the environment. This is embedded in our core set of foundational values as a people and as a culture, and were deployed by the government with excellent effect in the last few multilaterals on climate change and the conferences of parties. We were able to successfully transform ourselves from a naysayer to constructive champions of sustainable solutions against global warming and climate change. That is the way to go. Fifthly, pursue perfection with passion. For instance, designing the India of tomorrow. Urban design, the conceptualization and construction of public spaces. Reuniting the wonderful aestheticism embedded in our DNA as a people, who crafted our heritage from the stupas of Bajut to the magnificent splendor of Brihadishwara temple, from the gardens of the Shalimar to the minarets of Bijapur and Golconda, and the intrinsic ability we possess as a people to see heaven in every wild flower. Somehow, along the way, in the chaos and the mayhem of our lives, we have lost that sense of the aesthetic, and we must rediscover and redeploy it. Most importantly, unfetter our spirit of enterprise as a people. Our state institutions must be key enablers in this respect and allow the floodgates to open. For too long, they have hindered rather than helped. Government's work is God's work. As a creator, as a protector, as the first responder. That awareness must now be ingrained as we pave the road to the future. It has been extremely heartening to note the tremendous achievements registered in delivering what are called population-scale platforms at start-up pace, like Aadhaar and the UPI, to 1 billion and more strong population. That is a true revolution in state capacity and what digital technologies can do to promote inclusion and development for the people. Public service must be a calling not only for public servants, but also for those in the private sector. There can be no barriers in between. We must understand that the only scarce resource is time. Time that runs out and depletes too fast. Calibrate time better and understand how to manage and deploy it better. Let our minds be more neat and less cluttered, and let us forsake labyrinthine argument. Do not misunderstand me. There is a lot going for India today that should make us proud, but not vainglorious. We have miles to go yet, and we must be spurred to do more, drawing hope from what we have achieved so far as a nation in the last 75 years. I live in the city of Bangalore, in the heart of peninsular India, on the Deccan Plateau, that ancient landmass surrounded by two seas and an ocean. Here in the seat of power, Delhi, it seems that there should be more and more awareness of the forward-looking perspective towards the world outside, the thirst for innovation and new ideas that my part of India embodies. Just a look at the billboards will tell you that as a starter if you visit any of the southern states. But beyond that, a recent conversation I had with representatives of startups and tech companies in Bangalore was deeply revelatory. These are companies that are at the leading edge of frontier technologies that literally straddle the heavens in quantum computing, in cutting-edge semiconductors and nanotechnologies, skilling young people in quantum technology, in cybersecurity. As one of my interlocutors said, I quote, "Today everything done globally by my company is done in India," unquote. Democratizing artificial intelligence, literally AI for the citizen, in schools, in healthcare, motivating people to learn, improving our ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities on sea, land, and in the digital space, wanting to rule all dimensions, as someone said. And furthermore, in speech recognition and digital translation, that can be immeasurably useful when we are dealing with threats on our frontiers or insurgencies in other parts of the country, in smart innovation, and finally, embracing space, our final frontier. Everything is being redefined in the world today, and India can and should be at the cusp of such redefinition, becoming a problem solver. Bangalore, in many ways, I feel, is telling us what Make in India means. Which further underscores the need for us to invest in our science and technology ecosystem, to nurture talent and to cement our partnerships with those countries who can help us advance our goals in this field. Technology is today's force multiplier in the world, and as we make in India more and more, we must invest in industries of the future and the critical raw materials for these industries, as also developing the ecosystem within the country that can absorb these new technologies. Ours is a largely young country, and the average age hovers around 30, which is a wonderful resource at our command, and which we must harness effectively through education, skill development, and science and technology. The trajectory of our rival and long-term competitor, China, is uncertain today. Its growth is slowing down, it is losing friends and gaining adversaries across the board. Its political system is rigid and inflexible. It stifles debate and dissent. Its population is aging. It could well be caught in a middle-income trap. It is unlikely to overtake the United States as the world's leading economy in the near term, at least. This is a golden hour for India to utilize, to reap the advantage that flows from falling productivity in China, and in removing the regulatory cholesterol that makes doing business in India for foreign investors and businesses notoriously laborious and complex. This is a challenge already receiving attention, and I have no doubt we are addressing it seriously. Our goal is to be independent of dependence for our essential goods and services on outside countries who are our adversaries, especially in critical technologies and critical manufacturing industries like pharmaceuticals, electronics, and energy. In addition, there is the most important pillar of our national security in a difficult neighborhood, which demands that we engage in proactive defense strategies, building manufacturing capacity in the field, co-development and co-production with international partners, and ensuring a defense machine that is lean and yet technologically advanced and data secure, and constantly improving in delivering capacity. Today, the very nature of warfare and the future of conflict is changing. As someone asked the other day, I quote, "Where do you hide an aircraft carrier?" unquote, when there are adversaries who are watching and surveying you from space. As an aside, you can well imagine the consternation that would ensue if a Chinese surveillance balloon were to be spotted in Indian skies. I think our neighborhood will continue to exert a disrupting influence on our development until and unless tensions abate with China and Pakistan, our two large neighbors, with which we now have seemingly irreconcilable differences. There are no easy prescriptions here. We must keep our powder dry, stay prepared always for contingencies, never back-footed, while keeping focused on our core strategies for national development. I believe also that we need a more responsible political opposition space that is able to understand the national interest in a time of global tension, security threats to the nation, and the core development concerns of our people, rather than exploit every situation for narrow political or sectarian concerns. I say this as a concerned citizen with no ideological agenda at all. The same applies to the media. We need less noise and more substance, more gravitas. India today, I believe, has found its moment, ladies and gentlemen. It is our moment of opportunity, where aspirations and ambitions are at an inflection point, intersecting with capability and capacity, potential and power. The cup is close to the lip, but we must ensure that we are not diverted or deflected from that path. We have been cleared for takeoff, and let the engines roll. Thank you.
Such complex sharing of simplistic ways. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your motivational words, and we request you to please stay back on the dais. And now, I would like to invite our Dean, Dr. Suneja, to honor the chief guest with a special memento. So if you can please join us over here on the stage. Now, if you can please come back on the dais. It's a very special memento being gifted by our Dean, Dr. Suneja, to our chief guest, Ms. Nirupama Rao. Thank you so much.